Hello and welcome back to another episode of Let's Play Factorio. My name is Alex and I'm here from FCOG Gaming. And in this episode we have quite a bit of interesting stuff going on. Um, Basically just clearing out those final remnants of that spider nest that was right there. I am going to be setting up a simple rail system from the copper deposit off to the northwest to my main base. To get more copper ore, obviously, and basically just beefing up my defenses. Recently, the medium biters have started to spawn, which have kind of been a pain in my butt. They've, the way I had my defenses set up before was basically enough to fend off the small biters, but the medium biters are a little bit much for them. So yeah, eventually I'm gonna get around to kind of beefing up that northwest corner there, and yeah, just basically overusing laser turrets to my advantage. So as you can see, this rail's going to be run with a double engine design. This is actually the first time that I've used this, even with my gameplays beforehand, and I really like it. It takes up a lot less space than trying to figure out where to do a loop-de-loop. And yeah, we'll see once I try to get more than one uh, engine on there how that works. But for now, it's a pretty good design if you're just going from point A to point B and back and forth between the two. So yeah, just basically running back and forth, getting some materials here. All right, and we will just kind of craft the material for the station itself in the background. And meanwhile, my base is getting completely torn apart by those medium biters. Um, yeah. Throughout this episode, I don't have the Tech 3 science pack set up yet, so I'm just kind of burning through all of the Tech 2 stuff. And yeah, so a lot of that stuff should have been researched earlier, but it's stuff that I never use. So there's basically a lot of pop-ups because it's such simple technology. But yeah, I hope that doesn't get too annoying for you guys. Yeah, just set up that iron so that it's still producing there, and revamp my turrets here. Basically, just going to overpower them with laser turrets, which is definitely a good way to go most of the time, um, except for when you want to walk through them. And yeah, just pretty much making it so that no biters can just speed run through those turrets and mess up my base like they have been doing. So yeah, pretty good time to do that, but it's yeah, kind of distracting from what I actually want to do. And my stone mine there has actually run out of stone, so I'll have to find a new spot to mine that stuff if I want to build any more walls and railways. Actually, I always forget when I'm building railroads that it requires stone, and I go to build my rails and I don't have any stone. So yeah, just crash into that water tank for no apparent reason. I don't know what I was doing. I was probably distracted thinking about something else. And just kind of run around to the other turrets that have been damaged and try to fix those as well. But yeah, I think I have that under control. I set up my base for taking the ore out of the train. And basically, the setup that I like to use just because it's simpler is a belt feeding 5 chests, which are obviously going to be run by fast inserters there. Now, when you're setting up your station to pick up the ore, I I like to limit the chests to 4 stacks. That way, um, basically one of them will fill up and then it'll go to the next one, and that way when your train actually gets there, it's using all of those fast inserters, and it takes a lot less time to load up the train. Um, they I mean, there are ways to do it with splitters so that it feeds it evenly, but that's just a lot more effort than I really want to put into it. And this seems to work just fine. And most of the time, I mean, it's not really an issue anyway because you're going to be transporting a lot more goods than you are using, unless you're late in the game and you're doing iron. And even then, you could probably think about doing 2 trainfuls. But but yeah, for the most part, 1 train is more than enough to keep you occupied with your resources there. Which, yeah, copper is definitely one of those things where, I mean, you need more than 2 miners going, obviously, but a train is almost too much for keeping you supplied. But nevertheless, it's a lot easier to set this up than to set up a long, elaborate belt system, and it's also a lot less susceptible to biter attacks. So that's always good. And as you can see, I'm just kind of putting the final touches on here, restricting that to uh, 4 stacks. And at some point, I don't think it's this time. This is just me doing basically a test run to make sure that I have everything set up correctly, and you can see that fills up the belt quite quickly, um, which is a good thing. I mean, I can definitely use copper at this point, and yeah, basically just build a few more miners, and at some point we are uh, going to set up miners for the rest of that deposit, just to kind of future-proof things. I mean, we aren't going to be using all of them at the same time, but I would rather not be running back and forth to that outpost and kind of maintaining it. So just kind of want to set it up so it'll take care of itself as much as possible. Now, I did have a decision to make here. I could have ran that line directly into the other line, um, but the reason I didn't do that is because I still wanted ore on both sides of that belt, just to kind of fill the belt completely. And yeah, I know that those corners kind of give you a little bit of time penalty, but I figure I was going to be mining so much copper that it really didn't matter as far as the time penalties went. So the last step here is basically just fueling the train. I have that coal line still right there for the copper smelters, so I just decided to use that rather than bring over a solid fuel line from the oil production. I definitely could have done that. I'm producing enough fuel from that to do it that way, but I mean, I figured it really didn't matter either way. So just kind of throw another splitter on there, make sure that that belt is completely full, and kind of do some upgrades here as far as the actual smelters go. And that's pretty much it. Um, yeah, I mean, it's a pretty good setup. It's a lot better than what the 4 or 5 functioning furnaces that I had. And especially with the 2 miners that I was down to, this is definitely an improvement. And you can see that copper line is starting to fill back up, which is always a good sign. It does take a little while just because everything is starving for copper. So, like that advanced line is going to eat up a ton of copper. Um, Even the science packs were kind of starving for it. So, but it does eventually fill back up, which is good. And not in this episode, but in another episode that I filmed, uh, I actually realized that my iron isn't sufficient. So yeah, but that's something we can deal with in next episode. But yeah, just kind of running around, kind of maintaining everything, just making sure everything is running smoothly. I do set up a fast belt factory finally, and it's not the ideal spot for it, but it does work. Basically, I'm pulling belts off of that line for the green science packs and pulling iron and gears from that main line. and just doing it that way. And plus, I don't really plan on expanding into that little corner anyway, so yeah, it should work out just fine. But yeah, and I think that's enough for this episode. Thanks for watching, and make sure to take care of yourselves out there. And if you like this video, feel free to like, comment, and subscribe.